So first, before I get into what is going on in the game right now, I want to quickly talk about my thoughts on how challenging or how to compare the new bosses and how difficult they are from, like, right now, I done Chaos Will solo and team. I've done Chaos Lucid solo and team. I've done, Verus Hilla, obviously solo and team, and everything from below, right? And we're going to start Dark now this weekend, just kind of get our eye on it. But so I wanted to, people have been asking me how would I compare these bosses, right? And I would say solo and team for all these bosses are quite different. Even though a lot of the mechanics are the same, there's just a lot of different mechanics to it that make them so unique. So I'm just gonna go kind of quickly solo comparison, the big kind of the three right now: Chaos Will, Chaos Lucid, Verus Hilla, and then I'm gonna do team. Okay, so right off the bat, I would say for solo, the hardest one for me personally, and I'm gonna take this into my perspective is when you are at the lowest kind of gear requirements to clear the boss. Okay, it's not like now where Verus Hilla practice solo mode takes me 3 minutes, Lucid takes me 7 minutes, and Chaos Will is pretty quick, right? I want to talk about like when it was my first clear, for those people that are really trying to test if they can do it or not, right? And I think that for me, if you are, I would say the room for error in Chaos Lucid is the smallest compared to Verus Hilla and compared to Chaos Will, which is crazy to think because hard Lucid has been a joke since it first got released. It was like so many people were clearing it. Dreamy Belt prices tanked so quickly that you wouldn't think that Chaos Lucid would be that difficult. But for some reason, when you are first trying to clear and you are at that low, that like minimum requirement for damage, the room for error is so small. Starting with phase one is pretty tough, right? It really comes around to minigame, having enough DPS to have enough altar damage, done enough damage to get an altar charge, cleanse charge, and then how impactful each death is. Right, so if you know anything about Chaos Lucid, each death means 100% physical damage reduction for attack. So it's either physical attack or magic attack, and it lasts about 30 seconds. And when you're short on DPS, this is such a pain in the butt. When you're so short on maximizing damage to get altar cleanses or to do, just to continue to stay out of minigames, it is such a pain in the butt. I would say Chaos Lucid, if you guys saw me grind it out on my Pally pre-6 job, you pretty much have to play perfect. You have to time out, sometimes you have to time out your mini games in order to get to force a mini game in order to have enough charges for your burst windows, right? There was, you had to do different things, save burst, maximize it. You have to time your stuns out perfectly. It was just, there's so many little intricate things when you are tight on DPS that made Chaos Lucid so challenging. And on top of that, the worst part is the glitches, right? You guys, if you haven't done Chaos Lucid, the glitches from whatever it is, while you're jumping around, you glitch, you teleport randomly into a death. And it is just the worst, the most tilting thing from any boss that you can do currently. And apparently it's still a mechanic because there has not been a bug fix on it or changes to it since it got released. So that is the biggest part. And then surprisingly, phase 3, where it's just a straight tunnel DPS for Chaos Lucid, is not as easy as you think. You still have to kind of time out and save some burst, save some mini burst, whatever it is, to get to phase 3, but also to clear phase 3 because it's still quite a bit of damage. It's about 900 bill damage for phase 3. You have to do it about 45 seconds. So if you're tight on DPS, you really have to kind of strategically use your burst and save some damage to finish it off. So Chaos Lucid is number 1. I would say for first timers, Verus Hilla is number 2 because of, again, just how, and this is hard, Verus Hilla, because of how unique the class is, how unique the boss is, and just the different strategies, whether you take the altar, you don't take the altar, just the mechanic of not being able to heal, not being able to use your power elixirs, and just solely survive on skill, mechanics, dodging attacks, minimizing the, the knockbacks, knowing the rotations, when to dodge skulls, green eyes, when to stun, to dodge the necrotic. There's a lot that goes into Verus Hilla that I think is very challenging, that it just takes reps, right? It's really hard to just walk into Verus Hilla blind and sort of clear. Okay, so Verus Hilla is still, for a lot of people, first time at it. While Chaos Will is third, still very, very hard. And what makes it extra challenging is that it's a 15-minute fight. But if you're doing Chaos Will, you've already done Hard Will. And for the most part, the mechanics are the same, right? Except for, obviously the tests at phase 2 are different, which is a whole nother beast. But that can, you can figure that out, right? You can learn the test and there's room for error there. Phase 1 test is much more challenging in Chaos. But again, I think that there's a strategy there that you can figure out. And the thing about Chaos Will is phase 1 is that you'll know right away if you have to restart, right? Like, yeah, that's painful to have to restart after a minute and a half. But what's more painful is kind of failing any other boss, Chaos Lucid, Verus Hilla, at the 9+ minute mark, which is where most people fail, right? Those bosses. So Will, for me personally, a lot of the times my issues, and I think a lot of people's issues, was phase 1 test, because there's a bit of RNG to it and getting the orbs and collecting the orbs. But I thought that of the 3, it was the easiest. Not saying it was easy by any means, but you have familiarity with it, so you kind of know going into it. The attack skill rotation is the same. Jumping, the gauges are the same. For the most part, 85-90% of it is the same. Even phase 3. The nice part about phase 3, it's actually smoother than hard solo, which is surprising, right? Because in Chaos Will, the gauge feels much faster. So you have more cleansing, you have more gauge to cleanse. Whereas in hard solo, the hardest part about phase 3 is that you are lacking gauge to cleanse. Even though you can cleanse 4 webs in hard mode solo, and I think only 2 in Chaos solo, it's still very, it just feels like you're definitely not starved for gauge. It's more about when to use them versus like praying RNG wise that I'm gonna get gauge, due to if I get hit by a spider leg that I can't dodge or not, right? If that makes sense. So solo mode, I'll do Chaos Lucid, Verus Hilla, Chaos Will. Now for team mode, I would slightly put it, I would change the order per se, right? For number 3, I would still have, I would actually put Chaos Lucid number 3 for team mode. Now that I think about it, no, I think Chaos Will is still, well, here's the thing, right? I think I would put Chaos Lucid 3rd, only because the mechanics are much simpler. As far as like if only a few people know how to cleanse the altars, if only a few people know how can do comms really well, then there's a higher chance of success for Chaos Lucid. For like 7 out of the 10 people, it's just full on just DPS and just listen for comms, right? And you can clear that way. The frustrating part and why I hesitate to put it at number 3 so quickly is because Chaos Lucid deaths are so avoidable. Minigame, dodging charge, not getting hit by sickle. There's not much to it. The thing that that made me pause was that Chaos Lucid deaths are way more tilting for me, and I think for most people with elite groups, because of how avoidable the deaths are, but also how impactful the deaths can be if it forces you into minigame, if it forces you into like damage, the huge damage reduction, which again sets you back. And every minigame adds up. And if you die in minigame, again, adds up. And it just sort of snowballs very, very quickly. But so for me, it's the most tilting because it's the most avoidable. But I still think, like, in the grand scheme of things, if seven, I could say over half the team would not even know what to do. And if they just listen to comms, they dodged the orbs in minigame, and they just didn't die to charge, then you can clear comfortably. And those people wouldn't even, without even needing to worry about everyone having to memorize test or dodge strings on their own and things like that, right? So they have Chaos Lucid number 3 team mode, kind of, right? So number 2, I would say number 2 is still, I would say it's Chaos Will. Again, because there's familiarity with it. Same as solo mode, right? But the hard part is, for Chaos Will, is the test, or is phase 1 test. Phase 2 test, much more manageable with comms, right? People can memorize the test. People don't even have to memorize the test. They can get hit and tank a spider leg and still pass the test, right? There's room for error there. Phase 3, you just have to figure out what your best strategy is for your team, and you gotta coordinate with your support, your stuns. There's some strategy to that, but if you have a good shot caller, if you have a good leader, and you have a good support class, whether it's a Sia, a Lin, a Bishop, a combination of it. Again, as long as 3 people know what they're doing in phase 3, the other people can just tunnel there, not even know what to do, just focus on cleansing webs and DPS, and you can clear phase 3. The thing about Chaos Will is phase 1 tests are very unique, where everyone has to just grab the orbs, right? It's something you have to get used to that you're not used to in hard mode, but it's really, once you get the hang of it, once you learn what to do, it's easy to consistently do it week to week. It's just that initial struggle of being in the right places, cleansing, understanding the test, attacking the orb, kind of little small tweaks. But that first clear is challenging, but then after that, it can get a lot easier as people get comfortable and know what to do, right? They can use their iframes, they can use certain things, they can time up their burst to handle it, right? So Chaos Will, I would say, is number 2, and then Verus Hilla number 3. Verus Hilla number 1, still the hardest boss for me multi, especially when it's like newcomers and it's going to be a 9-minute fight plus, because of the fact that even veteran teams, even people that have been like, even if you've cleared for a month comfortably, the week-to-week inconsistency is still the most noticeable in Verus Hilla. And what I mean by that is, 1 week people can have 5 skulls remaining, right? Last the entire fight, huge DPS. And then literally the next week, same exact fight, same exact team, nothing's changed, and they can die in 3 to 4 minutes, right? Like a veteran team, big DPS, same aggro, everything. All they have to do is dodge strings, do the DPS, and they still, week to week, there's such huge variance. And if someone dies out, if you're tight on DPS, and if someone dies out early, that's a rerun, right? If you're missing out on, say, that 2nd or 3rd origin skill, right, and a few people die in and out, and it's just so frustrating week to week, not knowing what you're getting out of certain people, or just in general, right? It is very, very challenging. that I think it makes it so, like, it's hard to, the shot caller can't save you, right? A Sia, a support class, can only save you so much, right? But if the players don't know how to dodge the strings, if they don't really know when to blink in, when to blink up to avoid skulls, if they don't see the poison, they're just standing in poison, they're standing in a necrotic on the ground, they sort of tunnel, it's very noticeable, and it affects the team a lot more than any other class, any other fights, right? Chaos Will, really, the DPS just have to stand on one side, let the aggros, you're on the left side, aggros on the right side, and they can just stand there and DPS if you have a good aggro, right? And then you just have to follow directions on test, learn the test, things like that. Verus Hilla, you can have perfect aggro, pinning everything to the right side, facing all the attacks to the right side, and everyone's standing on the left, and people can still die out to strings, still die out to poison or necrotic week to week, even if, you know, everything is set up perfectly for them. So that is my take on ranking those 3 bosses: Chaos Will, Chaos Lucid, and Hard Verus Hilla, single versus team mode. Love to know you guys' thoughts though. I think everyone kind of has their preference about what is their favorite, what is the hardest, things like that. So I'd love to hear what you guys think and why. So let me know in the comments below.